The sun was setting over the manicured lawns of Oakwood Estates, casting long, golden shadows across the pavement. In House 42, the Miller sisters, Brenda and Diane, were settling in for their nightly ritual. Brenda, the elder of the two, was already tucked into her velvet armchair with a glass of overpriced Chardonnay. Diane was fumbling with the remote, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the massive 75-inch television that neither of them actually knew how to operate beyond the Netflix button. The Miller sisters were known throughout the neighborhood as the permanent residents of Complaint Avenue. They had lived in Oakwood for 30 years and acted as though they owned the air everyone else breathed. They had filed noise complaints against toddlers, reported lawn heights that exceeded 3 inches, and once called the city because a neighbor's wind chime was musically offensive. "Diane, hurry up," Brenda barked, swirling her wine. "The new season of The Crown dropped today. I want to see the costumes." Diane clicked the app. The screen swirled. A loading circle spun once, twice, and then a black box appeared, unable to connect to the internet. "That's strange," Diane muttered. She tried again, network error. "What did you do?" Brenda demanded, sitting upright. "Did you sit on the router again?" "I didn't do anything. It says the password for FBI surveillance van is incorrect." FBI surveillance van was the Wi-Fi network belonging to their next-door neighbor, Toby. Toby was a 20-something software developer who had moved in 6 months ago. He was quiet, polite, and crucially, he had forgotten to secure his guest network when he first moved in. The Miller sisters hadn't paid for internet in half a year. They viewed it as a neighborly tax Toby owed them for the privilege of living next to such high-society women. Not only were they using his high-speed fiber optic connection for their tablets and phones, but they had also logged into a Netflix account that Toby's younger brother had left active on a shared device. "He changed it," Brenda gasped, her voice rising to a shrill register. "That little punk changed the password." "How dare he?" Diane added, her face turning a blotchy red. "He knows we use that for our shows. It's common courtesy." In House 44, Toby was finally enjoying a moment of peace. He had spent the last 3 hours updating his home security and realizes his network was sluggish because of parasite devices. He hadn't meant to cause a war, he just wanted his video games to stop lagging. He had changed the password to something complex and, for good measure, logged out of all active Netflix sessions to clear the cache. He was just about to crack open a soda when his front door was nearly kicked off its hinges. Bam, bam, bam. Toby sighed. He knew that rhythm. It was the Karen percussion. He opened the door to find Brenda and Diane standing on his porch. Brenda was holding her iPad like a shield, and Diane had her arms crossed tightly. "Toby," Brenda shrieked, "the internet is down." "Oh hey Brenda, yeah I know, I changed the settings, I'm doing some maintenance," Toby said calmly. "Well, give us the new password," Diane demanded, stepping into his personal space. "We were right in the middle of a very important historical documentary." Toby blinked, confused. "Wait, you want my password for the Wi-Fi I pay $80 a month for?" "Don't get technical with us, young man," Brenda snapped. "We've been using that connection since June. It's a neighborhood agreement. We provide the security and oversight of this block, and in return we get connectivity. It's a fair trade." "It's not a trade if I didn't agree to it," Toby said, his patience thinning. "And honestly, it's illegal to piggyback on someone's network like that. I let it slide because I thought it was an accident, but now my work-from-home speeds are dropping." "Illegal?" Diane laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "We are the Homeowners Association board members. We are the law in Oakwood. Now give us the password or I'll have your trash cans cited for being 2 inches onto the sidewalk." Toby looked at them, truly seeing them for the first time. He saw the entitlement, the lack of shame, and the utter disregard for his boundaries. He decided right then that being the nice neighbor was over. "No," Toby said. "Excuse me," Brenda's jaw dropped. "The answer is no. Get your own internet, and while you're at it, get your own Netflix account. I saw 3 different Miller profiles on my brother's account. I've deleted them. Good night, ladies." He shut the door. For a full minute, the sisters stood in stunned silence on the porch. Then, the screaming began. The next 3 days were a blur of escalating hostilities. The Miller sisters didn't just want the internet back, they wanted vengeance. They began by calling the police to report suspicious electronic signals coming from Toby's house. The police arrived, spoke to a very calm Toby and left after realizing the suspicious signals were just a standard router. Next, they tried to rally the other neighbors. They went door to door, claiming Toby was a digital predator who was stealing the neighborhood's bandwidth. But the neighbors knew better. Most of them had been on the receiving end of a Miller sister rant before. "He's a nice kid, Brenda," said Mr. Henderson from down the street. "Maybe just pay the cable company, it's not that expensive." "It's the principal," Brenda yelled at his closed door. By Friday, the sisters were experiencing true withdrawal. No Facebook to scroll through for things to complain about, no Netflix to numb the silence of their large, empty house, no YouTube tutorials on how to prune hydrangeas. They were isolated in a digital desert of their own making. "I can't live like this, Brenda," Diane moaned, slumped on the sofa. "The local news is on and they're talking about weather. I don't care about the weather, I want my murder mysteries." "Fine," Brenda hissed, her eyes gleaming with a dark light. "If he won't give us the password, we'll make him regret ever having a router." The sisters hatched a plan. They knew the HOA bylaws better than anyone. They spent the afternoon scouring the 200-page handbook until they found what they were looking for, Section 12.4, External Attachments. Toby had a small satellite dish on his roof, an old one from a previous tenant that he had never bothered to remove. According to a tiny, outdated subclause, all external dishes had to be painted the exact shade of desert sand to match the roof tiles. Toby was black. They marched to the HOA meeting that evening with the energy of 1,000 burning suns. They presented their evidence. They demanded an immediate fine and a cease and desist on all electronic broadcasting from House 44 until the dish was compliant. The HOA president, a weary man named Gary, looked at the sisters. Brenda, Diane. "It's a 6-inch dish, nobody cares." "We care," they shouted in unison. "Rules are rules," Brenda added. Gary sighed. "Fine, I'll send him a notice, but this is ridiculous." The notice arrived on Toby's door the next morning. He read it, looked up at the dish, and started to laugh. He knew exactly who had instigated this. He looked over at House 42 and saw the curtains flutter as the sisters peeked out, waiting for his defeat. Toby realized that as long as he lived there, these women would make his life a nightmare over a few megabytes of data. He could keep fighting, or he could give them exactly what they wanted, with a twist. He spent the afternoon in his garage. He wasn't painting the dish, he was working on a peace treaty. That evening, there was a knock at the Miller's door. Brenda opened it to find Toby holding a small, gift-wrapped box and a piece of paper. "Look," Toby said, sounding exhausted. "I don't want to fight about the dish or the trash cans or the HOA. You want internet? I've set up a dedicated guest network just for you two. It's isolated from my main line so it won't slow me down." Brenda's eyes lit up. "And the password?" "It's on this paper," Toby said, handing it to her. "And as for Netflix, I talked to my brother. He said if you apologize for the police call, he'll let you use the account for 1 more month until you set up your own." "Apologize," Deanne scoffed from the hallway. "Or no Netflix," Toby shrugged. We apologize for the misunderstanding with the authorities," Brenda said through gritted teeth. Toby handed over the box. "There's a brand new Roku stick in there. It's easier to use than that smart TV app. Enjoy." The sisters snatched the gifts and slammed the door. They were triumphant. They had broken him. They had used their power to force the little punk into submission. They rushed to the TV, plugged in the Roku, and looked at the paper with the password. "The network name is Lesson Learned," Diane read, "and the password is Pay Your Own Bills 2024. They typed it in, faces burning with the insult, but the lure of the crown was too strong. They connected. They opened Netflix. The screen loaded. A message popped up. "This account is currently being used on too many devices. Please upgrade your plan or sign out of other locations." Toby had logged into every single one of his friends' devices across the city. He had filled the screen's limit intentionally. "What? It's still not working," Brenda screamed. She grabbed her phone to call him, but then she saw a notification on the neighborhood Facebook group. Toby had posted a video from his doorbell camera, the one of the sisters screaming about illegal signals and neighborhood taxes while demanding a free password. The comments were brutal. Are they serious? Get a job, Brenda. The entitlement is off the charts. Toby is a saint for not suing them. The sisters sat in the dark. Their Wi-Fi worked, but the speed was capped at a crawl, barely enough to load a web page, certainly not enough to stream high-definition video. Every time they looked at the network name Lesson Learned, they were reminded of their public shamming. A week later, a for sale sign appeared in Toby's yard. He had decided to move to a condo downtown, a place with fiber optic internet included and, more importantly, no neighbors with Karen tendencies. On his last day, he saw the sisters coming out to get their mail. They looked older somehow. Without the internet to fuel their outrage and without the neighborhood's respect to bolster their ego, they seemed like two lonely women in a house too big for them. Brenda looked at him. She didn't yell. She didn't mention the trash cans. She just looked at her phone, which was struggling to connect to the Lesson Learned network one last time before the router was packed away. It's going to be very quiet without you, Toby, Diane said, her voice unusually soft. You'll have the internet soon, Toby replied, loading the last box into his car. The new owners are a family with 4 teenagers. I told them all about the neighborhood. Brenda's eyes widened. 4 teenagers. Yeah, Toby grinned, and they're all gamers. They're installing the most powerful, encrypted, hidden SSID military-grade router money can buy on day one. I don't think they'll be sharing the password. As Toby drove away, he looked in his rearview mirror. He saw the Karen sisters standing on their porch, staring at their blank TV through the window, finally realizing that the world didn't owe them a connection, digital or otherwise. They had lost their Netflix, they had lost their dignity, and as the Wi-Fi signal from House 44 finally vanished from their devices, they were left with the one thing they feared most: the silence of their own company. The title of their favorite show had been The Crown, but as they stood in the darkening evening, they realized they were no longer the queens of Oakwood Estates. They were just 2 women who had finally been given a lesson they would never forget.